everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and today I would like to discuss some memories with the Gamecube. So this episode is coming off of the just random gaming memories that I had, and I realized after going through that episode, it made sense to just go through, the consoles that I have some decent memories with, good or bad, And I decided to just start with the Gamecube, mostly because, I spent enough time talking about mostly PlayStation memories and that, just overall gaming memories episode. So I was like, well, I'll go with the specifics and we'll kick it off with the Gamecube. And of course, as a staple of this series, we're gonna start with Resident Evil. And this story is actually just getting, this is just back in the day, getting a used game. I'm bougie. I never bought used games back in the day, but there's very rare occasions where it was like, it had to be done. When I got the PS3 for the first time, I got it when it was like the Slim. So it was like I had to go back. I got, Resistance and a couple other games. I bought them used. I was like, it's pretty much the only way to even get these games right now. But way before that was the GameCube. And the one game that I got used was the Resident Evil 1 remake, which is a masterpiece. Resident Evil, of course, is my favorite franchise. As I've said a million times, Resident Evil 1 remake, I think, is the best Resident Evil. It's not my favorite, which is the original Resident Evil 3, but I think the RE1 remake is the best Resident Evil game. And so, during this era of gaming, of course, I wasn't buying games. I didn't have a job. I wasn't getting games myself. So this was during a very specific window in time, and this is just how tapped into gaming I've always been. This was literally, it had to have been like a couple of days after I found out they were no longer making GameCube games. So it was like, the prints are done, like that is it. Whatever is out in the wild, that is it. That for the rest of time, these are the GameCube games that exist on Earth. And so I was at the mall with my mom, hating my life because, I had to go shopping. And so of course, you do what you always do. You go to GameStop, just look at games and it's like, this is nice. And then I saw the Resident Evil 1 remake. And of course, this being after, hey, there's no more GameCube games coming out. There's, no more being made. I was like, this is my only opportunity. And it was a good copy. It wasn't the crappy GameStop copy where it's like, it's just a random case and they just type some letters up and it's like, here's the title of the game. And it's like, they just didn't have a case. So it wasn't one of those. It was the full case. The discs were great. The booklets were in there, RIP booklets. And it was $20. And I asked my mom, and I couldn't believe it, but she actually said yes. All the candy bars on Earth that I had asked for, where it was constantly a no, like a dollar here, a dollar something there. No, no, no. And this one day, I didn't even have to beg. I don't know what happened. I don't know what it was. It wasn't like I did great on my report card or anything like that. It was a random day. And I asked, and I was like, can I get this game? And I could not believe it. And it's funny to think back on that now where it's like, it was $20. That's really that's really nothing. But at the time, obviously, not having a job or anything, it was like $20. Once again, I can't even get, I can't get some mini M&Ms, but I got a $20 game, and it was fine. It balanced out as far as I'm concerned, considering the joy I felt on that day, because that's one of the best days of my life, was getting a Resident Evil 1 remake and be like, holy crap, it finally happened. And the fact that it was such a great copy is a huge deal to me because I did get Resident Evil 0 eventually, and I definitely got the crappy case where it's, for anyone that doesn't know, all the Resident Evil games are 2 discs on the GameCube version. So like, Resident Evil 2 and 3, when they re-released those, it's 2 discs for everything. If I'm not mistaken, even for 3, I believe it's still 2 discs. But for 0, it's definitely 2 discs, and obviously get with the crappy GameStop copy, the discs are just sitting on top of each other because it's just a generic case, like a random CD case. So one day I still have to go on eBay and like buy the original case so I have the game kind of in its full glory, so to speak. But getting the Resident Evil 1 remake was an insane moment for me, where it was like, holy crap, I didn't have to bet. Honestly, I look back on that moment and I think I would have made a scene if need be for Resident Evil, especially, at the time where it was like, hey, the game's already, at this point, the game was already old. Like, if it was when they were stopped making GameCube games, I was already a bit behind, because it was just like, hey, you get a game every once in a while, and obviously, it might not always be new. So, at that point, especially, once again, Resident Evil being my favorite franchise, that was a huge moment for me, and it was like, holy crap, I finally got the Resident Evil 1 remake, and of course I played it, and it was absolutely amazing. Like visually, the game it's ridiculous how good that game looks on the GameCube of all things. It's insane, and I love that game. Obviously, favorite franchise, so slight bias, but a good game is a good game. That's just how it is. So definitely, I think if I had to pick, I'd say that was the #1 memory when it comes to GameCube. It was just getting the Resident Evil remake for the GameCube. Is because I never would have seen it coming, and I would have made the scene that day if need be for Resident Evil remake. I would have begged. It would have been a real serious moment. Like I would have thought of that for the rest of my life, kind of like I do now. It just would have been negative, but I would have thought about that for the rest of my life. Like, I begged and pleaded, and I didn't get that game. And I would have thought about that for the rest of my life. It would have scarred me, legit. But fortunately, it was a great memory. So I got the Resident Evil 1 remake for GameCube, and that was one of the best days of my life. Sticking with Resident Evil, of course I have to talk about Resident Evil 4. The game that changed gaming. The game that everybody is like, oh my God, Leon. I like Claire more. Just saying, I do. But once you start doing suplexes, I understand. You suplex a bad guy and his head explodes. It's like, all right, I see why he's a little popular. I get it. But in all honesty, playing Resident Evil 4 was also pretty nuts. And the funny thing about that is, of course, this is, me being old. I rented that game from Blockbuster. And so this was during the time where they were doing anything they could to survive. And it was like, hey, what if you rent a game? Like, it was almost like a subscription service type of thing, oddly enough. It was like, hey, you can rent unlimited games, but you can get one at a time. And you can keep them for as long as you want. So obviously you get one game, you just keep it as long as you want. And then once you're done with it, you can just go in and then it's like, boom, here you go. Here's another game to play. So Resident Evil 4 comes out and it's like, yeah, I'm sticking with Resident Evil 4. But before we get to that, there were a couple other games that I rented. 2 of which were for GameCube, 1 of which was for PlayStation. The PlayStation game, this is just super quick because I probably won't even bring it up when I do my PS2 episode. It was Battlefront 2, I think. The disc didn't work. I was pissed. I was like, dang. I was waiting, and my PlayStation was at my dad's house. My GameCube was at my mom's. So I was like, all right, switch this in. Let me get Battlefront. I always wanted to check it out. And I put it in, and it wouldn't read the disc. And I was like, the disc was messed up, so I couldn't play. I never got to play Battlefront. And I was like, man, I wasted some time renting that. So that was unfortunate. But the other 2 games were GameCube. One of which was another one of my favorite franchises, Metal Gear Solid. And it was, yes, the Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes remake. So I love that game. I thought it was cool. I liked the fact that he backflipped over a missile. I thought it was pretty neat. It's a game with a cyborg ninja that can go invisible and slices people up. I thought Snake flipping over a missile was pretty cool. I thought it was nice. I understand that it does get a little crazy. I still wonder why in the world did they have it where he flipped over the doorway. That part just doesn't make any sense, but I feel like that was in the original. Maybe that was only in Twin Snakes, but I was like, well, that just doesn't make sense. Like just from literally every perspective, that there's no reason for them to have done that. It wasn't even cool. It was just weird. So if it's not cool, backflipping over a missile, that's sick. That's just amazing. And they took that a step further when Revengeance came out, and it was like, all right, what if you just run up a bunch of missiles and then cut a helicopter in half? Beautiful game. But I like the Twin Snakes remake. I love the visuals for it, of course. But I had a great time with that because I was like, wow, Metal Gear Solid, growing up, Resident Evil #1, Metal Gear is #2. So having a remake of Twin Snakes was also an insane moment. And this was, of course, before the Resident Evil 1 remake had even come out. So it was like, man, they remade the first Metal Gear. That's so crazy. And that was really good. The other game that I rented, which I do believe, I don't remember the exact order, so I don't remember which was first and which was second, but the other game I rented was the Shark Tale video game. It was boring. I can tell you. I still remember just being like, oh, it's like a rhythm game. But I like the movie, so I was like, oh, okay, let's see what the Shark Tale video game's about. It's mostly like a rhythm game. And that was about it. So, I have that in my head. I played the Shark Tale game. I beat the whole game, too. I was like, I'm playing this game. I'm playing the whole game. And I got to the end, and I was bored. I was bored at the end, just hitting buttons, working at the car wash. Great times, I guess. But after that, the final game was Resident Evil 4. And I was hyped. And I was happy. And I rented that thing until once I got that, nothing else mattered. I think I played through the game maybe 2 or 3 times on the GameCube alone. And then sadly, eventually I had to go back. And I still have that save file. It's funny, I never owned it on GameCube. I only ever rented it, and it was from the Blockbuster thing. And that was it until it came out on PS2, and then I still have it to this day. Fortunately, it's one of the few PS2 games I still have because most of mine were stolen. I'll talk about that later. But on GameCube, I actually never bought the game. I only rented it, and that was it. So it was really cool to have that experience and play through the game a couple times and love it because I love that game. So that was super fun. And then when it comes to GameCube, outside of that, those core like the core Resident Evil memories, the main memories when it comes to GameCube is definitely Smash Brothers. Like Melee. First off, here's something with Melee. Shout out to Young Link because Young Link was my favorite character for quite a while. He was just awesome. So I love Young Link back in the day. And then I miss, and I don't think they changed this even when Ultimate came out, when you put items on very high, it was non-stop. Because very high items and it's only straight Pokeballs was insane. Like it was like as soon as one gets picked up, boom, here's another one. Like it literally would max out the memory on the effing GameCube. It was like, look, this is the most you can have on field. As soon as you pick one up and a Pokemon comes out, here's another Pokeball. And it was so fun. And I remember going to Brawl after that and putting items on high or very high. And it was like, this sucks. This is like nothing compared to the Melee. Like Melee was like, no, we will put the max amount on screen at all times. And I miss that because that was so fun to me. We're just doing straight Pokeballs. And then it was just like constantly. And it was just chaos. It was chaos. And that's what made it so fun because it was almost nonstop. And it was like, this is amazing. So I had to give that a huge shout out because I really miss that. I miss the actual consistency of items on very high and only Pokeballs. That was fun. That was an amazing memory from that game. Specifically, like Melee was the only one that had that level of just item drops. So I definitely miss that. I wish they would bring that back. Like I said, I don't believe they ever ended up doing that for Ultimate. I don't think I actually tested it when Ultimate came out, but I'm almost 100% sure when they had it for Wii U, and I know they didn't do it for Brawl, but for the Wii U version of Smash, I don't think it was that high either. But man, I miss those days because it was like all Pokeballs is like the best. But that's definitely the highlight is like the multiplayer element of things is 100% just like, hey, let's play Smash Brothers. Let's play some Melee. And it's just fun. Absolute chaos all the time. Really hilarious. But another funny memory that I have when it comes to GameCube is not actually from me personally. It's just being around someone else playing the GameCube a lot. And that's from my cousin because he played Phantasy Star Online. And he played it starting with Dreamcast. So he was like the first person where it was like, oh, like you're playing on the internet with other people. That's crazy. So he was doing that on the Dreamcast, and then when the GameCube came out, Phantasy Star was on GameCube, and so he was doing that then as well, and it was like, oh, Phantasy Star. So I have like just insane memories of just watching my cousin play, just specifically Phantasy Star. So whenever Phantasy Star pops up, I'm like, oh, I have respect for Phantasy Star Online because I spent so many hours just watching my cousin play it, where it's like, I'll be doing whatever, and then it's just like, all right, I'm just watching him just play stuff online, and it's just a bunch of people. So shout out to Phantasy Star Online just as a franchise, because even though I never really got into it myself, I played like a little bit. My cousin was like hardcore about that junk back in the day. Like I'll never forget, he told me a story. This isn't GameCube related because technically this was when it was Dreamcast, but I'll just share the story here anyway. He told me about when he was playing the game, and so he went online because there were like some rare items that we just couldn't get in the States, or however it was set up, he couldn't get these rare items. And so he met this dude on a forum, and the dude was like, oh yeah, I can get you these items. And he was like in the UK, and it was like, yeah, just send me your memory card. I'll just load all these weapons, like these special, secret weapons and stuff on your stuff, and then I'll just send it back to you. And it was like, all you gotta do is just ship it to me. And he shipped out his memory card across the effing planet. And this dude did it, and he just put all these weapons on his memory card and just shipped it back to him, just because. Like, it was just like a nerdy moment in history where it's like, that's the weird type of stuff that used to happen back in the day, where it was like, oh man, I can do that. Like, we have those over in my country. Just ship it to me. I'll just load the weapons on for you, and I'll just shoot it back. And that's what happened. And so he just had like these insane items that you just couldn't get in the States. Like I said, I don't remember the exact reasoning. I don't know if it was like, PAL versions and all that stuff from, during that era. But I remember we were talking about that, and that made me laugh so hard. I was like, man, the things that you could do back in the day that was just like, yeah, just send your memory card across the effing planet. Crazy stuff. So shout out to Phantasy Star for those random memories that I had nothing to do with personally, but I was sitting there watching. I was watching all the time. So shout out to Phantasy Star. But love me some GameCube. Wanted to just do this one. I know this was probably a shorter episode. There aren't like a ton of insane memories because honestly, I don't have a lot of specifics outside of my Resident Evil stuff. Other than that, it really was Smash Brothers. Like I only had a couple of GameCube games anyway. I mean, I think I have like the Rogue Squadron demo. So whatever demo disc I have that. I have Melee, Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 0, and I'm sure I got something else. Like honestly, I can't remember. That's all I got. Oh, I have Geist on GameCube. There's a memory for you. I don't know if I can say underrated. It's not like a masterpiece, but it's a fun game. It's a fun concept for sure. And it's about a dude that basically becomes a specter. Like some weird experiment happens, it turns him into a geist or a ghost. And you can possess people and items. And the way that game works is you have to scare people in order to be able to possess them. So you can like possess grenades, or you can, possess items and like have things start going haywire, and it freaks people out. And then when they're scared, that's when they're easier to possess. And that's how you go through that game. And it was definitely fun. I remember playing that. It was only on GameCube, so it was a GameCube exclusive. And that was a fun game. Like I said, it's not, it's hard to say like, oh man, it's underrated masterpiece. I can't say that. I can say it's somewhat underrated, but I definitely can't say like underrated masterpiece. It was a good game. It was fun, but there are definitely elements of it where you play through a certain amount of it and you do start to get a little bit bored because they don't go crazy enough with what you need to do, or it just starts to feel repetitive. Even if it's technically different, it can start to feel a bit repetitive. So Geist. I remember having Geist. And legit, I think that's all I had on GameCube. I honestly can't remember if I had anything else. So Geist, 2 Resident Evil games, Melee, the other game that I mentioned that I already can't ever remember, the Rogue Squadron demo, and I think that's it. I'm sure there was something else I had to have. I always wanted Eternal Darkness. I wanted that game so bad. That was not on the same level of Resident Evil, but it was a horror game that did really crazy stuff and would like mess with you and turn volume down. I wanted that game so bad, and I'm still pissed that they never just remastered that game and put it out. Like it annoys me to no end that somehow that I think is an underrated masterpiece. Like from what I know, not having played it personally, just from seeing it enough, I'm like, how did this game just get lost in the fray of like legalities and all that crap where it couldn't be remastered, not even remade, just put it out. I just want that game. So that's an unfortunate one, but I think that's about it when it comes to GameCube. Like I said, the handful of games and mostly just Smash Brothers memories and my couple of Resident Evil moments, and that's about it. So I'm gonna end this episode here. I would love to know, of course, your GameCube memories. I never had whatever the Mario game, I can't even think of the name of that specific Mario game, but I never had that one, never wanted it, didn't care. So, Sunshine, there it is. Never had Sunshine, never had pretty much any Mario game. Oddly enough, outside of Melee, there was no Mario. There was no Mario for me. But we'd love to know, what you guys had for GameCube, what things are just like those big highlights, like, it's the GameCube. Legend of Zelda was on there, it was on there. I hadn't played it. Like I said, I'm weird when it comes to GameCube or Nintendo in general. It's like I kind of don't end up getting a lot of the mainstay games. I never played The Legend of Zelda until the Switch came out. So, I'm always kind of behind when it comes to mainstays, unless it's Smash Brothers, and that's about it. So those are my weird GameCube memories, my little lunchbox, which I had the Platinum GameCube. That is worth mentioning. I got the Platinum because I got the GameCube later. I got an Xbox. I remember getting my Xbox and thinking, oh, I wanted a GameCube. So that's another little memory. When I first got my Xbox, and I'll go into more details about that because that was crazy. But when I got my Xbox for Christmas, I was like, oh, I actually want a GameCube more. But when I eventually got it, I got the Platinum, and I made sure, I did it as much as I could. I tried to stick with Platinum. I bought a Platinum memory card. That junk was 58 megabytes. I had to buy a second memory card instantaneously. Like there was no effing space. But I had the Platinum, and those Platinum controllers are beautiful. And I even got the Wavebird, and I was able to find the Wavebird in Platinum. I still use the Wavebird. I haven't played Smash Brothers in a million years, but I still use the Wavebird. People are like, oh, it's wireless and delay. I'm like, nah. Wavebird. Platinum Wavebird. That's God tier. That's a God tier controller. I don't care what anybody says. That's one of my favorite controllers. That was my first wireless controller, so it has a very special place in my heart. It was a platinum wireless controller. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. I love that thing. I still have it to this day. To this day. Love that thing. I also had the weird sound system that you could plug into the GameCube for speakers. Literally never got that thing to work. I tried for literal years, and I could never figure out why this thing wouldn't work. I'm like, what input do you need? What is going on? Never got it to work. So I had those speakers, that little system, you sit it in and hook it up. Literally never worked. Could not figure it out for the life of me. And I think that maxes out I think that's it. I think that covers literally everything that you guys need to know about me and the GameCube as far as memories are concerned. I think I got it in there in that last little bit. Those are the last couple of big memories for me and the GameCube. So I would love to know your memories with the GameCube, the ups and downs, highs and lows. What games did you guys miss? Like I said, for me, it's Eternal Darkness. I do need to still buy an actual case for Resident Evil 0, but at least I got it. Got my Resident Evil 1 remake, still a good moment, one of the best days of my life. So let me know. Let me know what the GameCube did for your life, good, bad. Did you just miss out on the GameCube? Obviously there are tons of consoles out there where it's like you wanted that, but you just never ended up experiencing it. So in general, whatever your experience is with the GameCube, whether it's close up or from afar, definitely let me know. I'll for sure be going through pretty much all the consoles that I've owned and all my big memories for those. So look forward to, that's probably gonna be the next couple of episodes, is just me jumping around the different console generations. So let me know right now as far as GameCube, what you guys have. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.